If you were to type in refashion clothes tutorial into YouTube right now, you will come up with thousands upon thousands of refashion videos on, upcycling and refashioning, or as I like to say, garment renovations. But I know as a beginner sewer, or even a more advanced sewer, but actually starting refashioning for the first time, it's really hard to know what's going to be easy and what is more hard in refashioning. Or I should say perhaps maybe what's achievable at the skill level that you're at, and then what just makes you want to throw your sewing machine out the window. Yeah, we've all been there. I think Pinterest has a lot to answer for here. I want to see you be really successful at your garment renovation endeavors. And so I have sort of broken it down into 3 different levels, and there's sort of refashion levels, and there's sort of skills that you might need for each of those kind of levels of refashion, so you can better look at different ideas and projects and know which ones might be a good choice for you at your skill level or at what you want to get to next, so that you're more successful in your sewing and refashioning. Welcome, my lovely ladies and gents. Thank you for joining me today. It is always a pleasure to see your smiling faces. If we are actually just meeting for the first time, my name's Evelyn Wood, and I'm a lifelong dressmaker and founder of VintageSewingSchool.com. It's an online sewing school. Now, I know that we all tend to look at these Pinterest images and they make it look so easy, right? Yeah, you probably, I don't know, maybe you look at my videos and think that sometimes, but it always looks so much easier until you get and do it. The hard thing about learning to refashion, upcycle, garment renovate is that there is no instruction manual. When you're working with ready-made garments, it's a new sort of set of skills and a new way of thinking about your sewing that you need to use and develop to be able to do it really well. And that's why it's really hard. A pattern is like an instruction manual. You just follow the steps and it's done. And it's kind of, when refashioning and what you do, it's something that no one really talks about. So I want to open up some new ways of thinking and hopefully give you some new ways to look at your refashioning. What I've decided to do is I've broken it up into 3 different levels of refashioning, and the skill levels that might be required for each of those to help you give you a better idea of how to look at the refashion projects and maybe choose which is most appropriate for you to start at the skill level that you are, so that you're more successful in your sewing. Okay, let's go level 1. So this is the sort of ground zero in refashioning. These are your very first brand new to refashioning projects, and you're probably quite new at sewing as well. And so this level 1 is mostly, I'd suggest, think about mostly embellishments, and we want really super easy projects for you to get started in. So I think in this category is mostly embellishments and decorations and just really simple side seam take-ins, or a simple just changing a hem length or changing a sleeve length. Just really simple changes. Change of buttons even. Just keep it really easy, because you're probably still learning your sewing machine and getting used to actually sewing garments, and how, just even looking at the inside of garments, you're probably there, or pulling apart garments for the first time. Even if you've sewn a little bit and know your machine, this is the first time you're even pulling garments apart. So just keep it really easy. You always want to just build on different levels. So think about, you're not really changing up the base garment, but you're really just trying to maybe do different decorations and really simple changes to like an easy side seam, but you're keeping the base garment as it is. At this level, you're really looking at learning, you might still just be learning your machine and learning about clothes. You'll be learning about different seam finishes, and garment construction is looking at the inside of things and seeing how they're made. Start having a look at the seams and see the different order at which things were sewn. Keep note, because this will come in handy for you as you progress further and start going to the next level. So what kind of projects might fit into the level 1 category? I think, have you ever seen those like singlet embellishment, refashions, or a men's shirt decoration? There's definitely those, and a simple take in maybe to a lady's blouse, as well as maybe a little bit of embellishment, adding lace, changing the buttons, actually making pockets, either side seams or patch pockets on things, is a really good sort of level 1 beginner type refashion projects. And simple side seams and simple hem adjustments, I think, all sort of fall into this level 1 category. So some projects that I've done are like my little beautiful green kimono shirt that I have refashioned. It was just simply creating new side seam shape. The curve is a little bit harder, but generally just creating a new side seam, and I took those ties and then made a little necktie out of it. Pretty simple. And some of the ones in the quick fix video, for example, the little white blouse, I just redid some top stitching around the waistband on it to make it look a lot more high-end, and a change of buttons, of course, and I just let down the arms. Really simple little changes. The base garment all stayed the same. It was just a few little sort of more embellishment tweaks that I did. So keep it easy in this category. Level 2 of refashioning. So I think in this sort of level is more, you have, obviously you do everything in level 1 plus the next. I'd say at this skill level that you have sewn quite a bit. Maybe you're just starting refashioning but could start at this level if you're quite a good sewer already and have a good understanding of how garments go together, or you've sort of have done quite a number of sort of level 1 projects and you're stepping yourself up to the next level. So I would class this level as you're making changes, you're starting to pull apart the whole garment and make bigger changes, but it still sort of resembles what it once was. You're not doing an entirely complex refashion, but it is still quite complicated. You're getting in and pulling it apart, rechanging it up, but it still does resemble its original kind of thing. Some things you might be doing at this kind of refashion, I think, include things like taking like full downsize and scaling down of items where you've got sleeves and bodices and skirts, and taking them all apart and resizing it all, adding darts, putting it all together, so fully fitting it to your body. Sort of more major takedowns, adding ruffles, adding new collars, obviously changing all your hems, adding even starting more design lines, and just really starting to pull it all apart, refit it, and add more complicated things like new collars and cuffs and all sorts of things like that to it. And so what might you be learning at this kind of level when you're doing this, or looking to learn to increase? So you're really looking at garment construction at this point. You really will know, or need to know, or getting there and learning at the time, how garments go together. So think about, you'll start needing to know those pattern shapes. So having experience with patterns also helps with refashioning, and refashioning helps with using patterns. They all go together in that system of sewing. So knowing garment shapes and what they should look like helps you in your refashioning, because you're kind of, doing it as you go along. So you're really looking at garment construction. So you know what bits to pull apart to take in, and then how to sew them back together and make it really, really nice. And neat finishes, of course, as well on doing this. But you're really starting to pull all the garments apart and putting them back together. So garment construction is a really big one that you'll be learning, or at this stage, or already know. So the kinds of projects that I think fall into this kind of category are, think those really oversized, 90s dresses that you see that people resize down into beautiful, more modern or vintage, in maybe my case or our case, style dresses, like full downsize rescale. Adding different collars to things. Men's shirts are a great one here because they do require a bit of downsizing, but can then embellish and do things, and you can pull them apart, and they are a little bit of a dime a dozen, so you can go through and have many different practice ones, and just really experiment with men's shirts. I think is really great because you can get them so easily and readily. It's a great way to start pulling apart garments and looking at how things fit you on your body. Also, dress to skirt conversions, I think, fall into this sort of category where you're starting to change up the garments, pulling them apart, putting them back together. So I have done a few refashions, I think. For example, like my 90s dress to a 1920s dress refashion, where it was completely downsized. I added a new collar, added pockets, but it still resembles the original dress. You know, it's sort of just downsizing and adding a few things to it. And also my simple ladies blouse refashion in this one as well. I think this could be beginner as well, but there's many things that you can do. The one sort of refashion, you can do many different things. It still resembles the original thing, but it's just simple take in, shortening, adding some decorations like the collars and different buttons. You know, this is the kind of projects that I think fall into this category. And of course, even these types of projects, if you have tutorials to help you, makes it a lot easier, and you can even start doing these as beginners. So my simple ladies blouse refashion, for example, is a tutorial I have at Vintage Sewing School. It's a step-by-step tutorial where I show my students how to do these refashions and even make their own versions of these refashions. And so beginner sewers, even at level 1s, are able to do these types of projects because you've got a guide, right? You've got someone showing you the step-by-step. So this definitely helps in refashioning. If you are interested in learning more and taking your sewing to the next level, not just with refashioning, but all your sewing at all different skill levels, come join us at vintagesewingschool.com. It's sort of my monthly sewing club where we take your sewing to the next level. But it's all online, and I'll put a link down below for those that want to have a look. Now, level 3. What's included in this one? Well, this is where it gets really fun, because this is, I think, you know, this is the top tier level of refashioning. This is when you are really quite advanced. You have done many different garment renovations before, and you're generally quite an experienced sewer, because I really feel like having pattern making knowledge and knowing and understanding patterns at this point really helps you to be able to get to this sort of level in refashioning. This is where you're really fully deconstructing garments and really putting them back together and you're kind of creating new patterns and new designs, but you're molding it from ready-made garments and like pulling it all apart and adding and combining two things together to create the shapes that you want. It's kind of like the Yoda master level, I guess. Let's call it that for giggles. At this point, you're really kind of thinking about the garments that you see more as fabric and what you can do with them. So it is fully deconstructing it, just using it as fabric, putting things together, being really creative to create new silhouettes out of these garments. They kind of almost start not resembling what they were before. You're creating something entirely new at this point, using both your creativity and your garment construction knowledge. So at this level, as I said, you really know your garment construction down. You know how things go together. You know the shapes that patterns should have, like what the sleeves should look like to create XYZ silhouette that you're trying to look. You know that instinctively, so that's how you're actually able to create it and mold it out of nothing. So this is where all of your sewing skills all combine together. They always mush together. You know, pattern making skills helps refashioning, refashioning helps pattern making skills. It all goes together. And of course, it's really about perfecting those finishing techniques and having really nice, neat, professional finishes on all of these, like top-notch couture finishes. So what kind of skills are you learning here if you know, as you go into this level and are there? Well, I think you are learning really nice high-end finishing techniques, and not only finishing techniques that you get to choose, but you really have to be able to choose one for whatever you have in front of you. So everyone is different, and being able to choose one appropriate for what you're doing. You should really, you know, garment construction is absolutely key learning in, I think, in this stage, and learning those pattern shapes and how they create and make actual garments and make the garments that you want and the silhouettes that you're looking to achieve. There are so many different projects at this sort of stage, and I think it's really limited to only your creativity, because this is when you pretty much can do anything. This is where you see people using like tablecloths just as fabric, but not just as fabric, but as in they have prints or have lace borders or have things going on them, and they've used those really wisely in using those existing design elements in making a garment out of it. Or like a men's suit to a lady's suit refashion. Anything that's really fully deconstructed and reconstructed and just blows your mind how it was able to happen. You're just reshaping and reforming things as you go. So some of the projects that I have done, I think that fall into this category are my men's suit that I made into a lady's vest for my Refashion runway collection. That one was really, really tricky, required so much time fitting, finishings on that to get that right. Wow, there was a lot of work, but I think it falls into this category. I would say my wrap top refashion that I have as a tutorial inside Vintage Sewing School, and I showed you a video through my design process on that just last week actually. I think this one falls in there because it really is, you know, you're sort of deconstructing the whole thing and needing to fit and make straps out of this and that and put it all together, and to do that from scratch is really difficult. But again, when you have someone sort of showing you how to do it, you can skip the queue a little bit, in so to say, and do it ahead of time. But I think that one falls in there. And perhaps my overall refashions, that one still kind of resembles what it was, but that one was really, really tricky. And I would put that at only sort of advanced level, because the things I had to pull apart and redo and resize that entire thing and create straps and make it fit, and it was, yeah, that was a lot of work and really required a lot of thought process and planning to make that one happen. So what do you think of these different sorts of levels of refashioning? Has it kind of given you, I hope, a new way to look at the skill level required for different refashions, and maybe a different way when you see them to know whether it might be in your skill set or what you want to learn or start stepping up into? I hope it maps out the skill level for refashions. I would love to know. Let me know below in the comments. What level do you think that you're at now, or what do you want to go into? What are you working towards even? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading all of your comments. And remember, do check the description box below for all the links to all the other videos to watch. There's heaps of refashion ones there. And until next time, happy sewing. Bye.